Who's excited for training camp? I know we are. Let's go.
We got all sorts of flame stuff to talk about today, so let's get right into it. First of all, a couple days ago, the Flames finally signed Jacob Pelche to a two-way 1-year deal worth 800 grand in the NHL. At least his minor salary is obviously significantly less, but I think that's a good prove-it deal for Jacob Pelche. I mean, he hasn't proved anything in the NHL other than he's got a fantastic attitude, which is awesome. Unfortunately, he's been kind of hampered by all sorts of injuries and a coach that wouldn't play him and all that type of stuff. So hopefully he steps up and wins a job. I'm not sure if he will, simply because of how many wingers are ahead of him, but it's not impossible. So hopefully he does.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he bet on himself, wanted to play hardball on a new contract. Unfortunately, he came up a bit short with what I believe he was thinking. But that's kind of the nature of the beast when you've played 37 games and only have 10 points to show out of it, and in a couple of seasons. So it's a prove me contract for Jacob. I hope he's able to crack the roster and show the Flames fans, Conroy, show everybody what he's made of. I hope he does it. We'll see though, right? I mean, it's like you said, it's been somewhat disappointing thus far, whether it be with injury or even some of his lack of production and stuff like that. I mean, obviously that's going to come. He's young and all that. He seems to have good off ice, or I guess on ice chemistry, but not during the play with say Huberdeau. They've a couple of Frenchmen, so they I'm sure they're happy to be around each other. But it all comes down to him now. So he's got this 1-year deal. It's up to him to see what he can do for his next contract by proving he's worthy of $1 million, $2 million, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, my expectations of him when he first was coming through the system there before the injury and before, honestly, I thought he should have got more opportunity when Sutter was coach and Sutter was playing the Brett Richies and all those types of players in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
Whether warranted or not, I didn't really think it was warranted, but I do think that he deserved more playing time at that time. And then the next year he just got hurt right away, and
Yeah.
it's kind of been really, really disappointing since then.
Mm.
But again, that's to be expected for a guy who's lost basically an entire year of his prime development. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I think he can show up and at least at the very least I think he can become a fourth liner. I thought his ceiling may have been like a third second liner, middle six guy, but maybe it's fallen down a little bit to bottom six. But who knows, right? He's still young. He's only on a one-way deal, or sorry, on a 1-year deal, two-way. But I do think if he ever gets sent down this year, he's going to be claimed on waivers, so they've got to be careful of that.
Yeah, I think there's still a ton of potential. He is only 23 years old. Doesn't mind getting gritty, and he does play the right way as far as I'm concerned. He just maybe lacks in um, a bit of size, a bit of muscle, that sort of thing, and just that all comes down to his age, and just I think he just needs more confidence, and the only way he's going to get that is with some more ice time.
I totally agree with that, and hopefully he gets some.
Mhm.
Moving on, the Flames also today signed Ilya Solovyov to a 2-year deal. It's a one-way deal in the second year and a two-way deal in the first year. And I just want to solidify this because a lot of people don't seem to know. A two-way deal doesn't mean that you can go down to the minors without waivers. It means that your salary is different when you go down. Um, so he'll still have to clear waivers, same as Peltier. But his deal is a $775,000 deal for 2 years. I think, you know, it is what it is. I think Solovyov has a pretty decent chance at being like a, you know, fourth, fifth, sixth defenseman in the future. I kind of wish we didn't have Tenorti and Hanley and some of those other guys who are just there for some reason. Originally, I was super pumped that we signed Barry to that PTO, and I kind of hoped that he would be getting a shot, like an
Yeah.
actual contract. But now with Tenorti in there too, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm hoping that Ilya Solovyov can actually get quite a few NHL games in his limited time last year. I really enjoyed his defensive prowess. I think, again, I think he'll be a perfectly good, you know, bottom pair defenseman in no time.
Yeah, I agree. And the first year of his deal is that two-way where he's making 125 in the minors playing for the Wranglers. The second year of the deal is a one-way. So I feel like they're kind of setting him up for success for the 25-26 year, more so to become a regular player on the team because he's going to be making 775 whether he's playing for the Flames or the Wranglers. So I feel like that's going to be the year that he's really been or is going to be really given that shot because as you know, we have that's huge logjam at the defensive position at the moment going into camp. I think a lot of it has to do with that famous two games on the same night that we play against Edmonton or Vancouver in the
In
in
training
training
camp,
camp.
the split
So
squads.
yeah, the split squad. So I think that's where you're gonna get to see all of the defensemen play that are kind of pining for a spot. I feel like after that game, like normal, quite a few of them are either going to be released or sent down, that sort of thing. So I hope he's able to crack the roster this year because I do like him as a player. I like what he brings to the table. I agree with you that he's kind of a bottom pairing, at least at the moment for sure. He may grow into a middle pair, who knows? But you know I think it's a good deal for the Flames. So, let's give him some money. It's not it's an easy contract to eat up at the moment. There's not much to it.
I totally agree. Speaking of easy contracts to swallow, the Flames also locked up Cole Schwint. Now it's not official on Puckpedia right now, but what was it? 800 grand.
800 1 year two-way.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a lot of a huge chance that Schwint gets many games in the NHL this year. I thought he showed, that he's a perfectly fine tweener last year. Um, I don't know if the ceiling's super high there. I'd like to see if it is. I think that the Flames need to definitely go through a whole bunch of different young guys, cycle through and figure out what they have with all these kids, right? And he's just
Yeah.
one of them. And if he becomes something, I mean, he was a part of the Kachuk trade, right? So it
Well,
would be
yeah.
really nice if he was something.
I was actually quite intrigued with with him being included in that trade, I was somewhat excited to see what he can bring to the table. But he hasn't shown much in the 2 training camps he's been here thus far. I mean, obviously not. He hasn't really actually cracked the roster. So I think, yeah, it is what it is with him at this point. I'm hoping that he can excel and become part of the process, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, he's doing well for the A. Obviously, there's lots of players that end up being AHL players only. So I mean, who knows? But it'd be a shame if one of the pieces in the Kachuk trade ended up being a giant nothing burger for the organization.
And it would be even more of a shame if one of those pieces got traded somewhere and became something somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but he wears number 79, and I believe the last number 79 was Michael Furland. And I'll be dead honest, there's been a couple times, like in the games that he's played, there's been a couple times he's laid out some pretty big hits, and I've kind of like got that 79 flashback.
Yeah.
But
It's time to
just the hitting, there's not really much else there.
Time to get that train rolling again, right?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Especially for this setup, it would be nice to have a forward who's rambunctious, who's not Pospisil, because Pospisil
can't do it by himself.
The injury bug.
Yeah, he's got a bit of the injury bug. Plus, he on occasion, I'll say, has could potentially cross the line a little bit.
There's the line, and he just likes to get over it just a tiny little bit.
Sometimes you can skate that line with a foot on either side, and it's okay. But then sometimes you take your foot off the ice and you're offside. You got to fucking knock it off. I mean, I don't think he does. I like the way he plays.
I do too.
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for learning when is the right time and when's not the right time, but having that in your game in order to learn when the right time is a huge thing, right? A lot of players just don't have that. So
look what happened with Kachuk for the first couple of years, right? He was a shithead. He got called out for it from Brad and coaches. Brad kind of embarrassed him that one time being dad and pulled him out in front of the media and smacked him in the junk and told him to apologize for his actions. And
well, you remember he actually got Keith Kachuk in there to talk to him. He Brad called up. It's one of my only good things that Brad did was calling up Keith Kachuk and being like, listen, reel your son in here because nobody else can. And it worked. It worked wonders.
It did work, right? Yeah. And I'm sure every player has their own idea as to what would work. I'm sure Pospisil will find out what his is at some point.
Anyways, yeah. So those are the 3 RFAs that got signed. Really, not all that much to talk about because they're all, basically league minimum or very close to league minimum. 2-way deals that are prove it deals, basically.
Exactly.
So hopefully something comes out of some of them.
The NFL is back, baby. And a new season means new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Ready to place your bet? Try betting on something simple like picking a player to score a touchdown. Or place your bet like I do on your favorite team. Let's go Niners.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Now, I don't know if any of you guys know, but the rookie camp just ended, which is the Penticton Young Stars tournament. The Flames went 1-1-1, I believe.
1-1-1.
1-1-1, I believe. I don't think the winning and losing is what really matters in this tournament, especially since the Flames have a whole bunch of young guys and the other teams all have guys who have played a whole bunch of AHL games. I think a couple of them even had some NHL games in there. So
Yeah.
I think that a few Flames really stood out. I think that most of them had moments, and a few of them really stood out. And I kind of want to get into that. How do you feel, Chris?
I feel like this sort of tournament has the potential to really showcase your young talent. The issue that I have with the tournament is kind of under its current format. There's no real, regulation as to, the age of the players, how many games they've played at the professional level, stuff like that, or it doesn't appear to be anyways. And obviously when you're going up against teams like Edmonton that have, they've given away a lot of their picks over the last couple of years to try and be, a contender. So they're not exactly drafting, high octane players or anybody worth watching. So they have to put in players that have been in the organization for a couple of years, and so I find it's tough to get a true read on it. But that being said, there are a couple of standouts, for the right reason and potentially for the wrong reason on the Flames roster from this year.
Absolutely.
Whether it be an age thing, whether it be just mind issues or whatever, just making mental mistakes. My theory on that though is they're young, and that is the time for that shit to happen.
Yeah. And
I mean,
I want to start off with a really intriguing one. Sam Honzek. I thought Sam Honzek had actually a pretty good tournament considering his first game. He was invisible. He was straight up invisible. I noticed him twice, and one of them was fanning on a one-timer, and another one was a giveaway. And other than that, I didn't notice him at all. That said, he's really stepped up in the next couple games, both on the score sheet, getting, I can't remember exactly his stats, but he got a few points. He got definitely one, maybe two goals there. But his puck protection skills, again, against young guys, and he's a big kid, right? So you'd expect that. But his puck protection skills were on point. His shooting and his defensive play was really good. And we'll get into it, but I thought that in the second game, Sam Morton really helped Honzek along, but Morton didn't play in the second game, and Honzek still continued with his great play. So I was really happy to see that. Now, one thing that really, really bothered me, Sam Honzek is 19 years old.
Yeah.
And he lost quite a bit of his first season after being drafted to a pretty bad injury.
Yeah.
And he's only played a couple AHL games. And I think the hate he was getting online after that first game, when he was relatively invisible, was pretty rough. And it's unnecessary. It's one thing if a guy's been in the organization for 3, 4, 5 years, but this guy's been in the organization for 1 year.
Yeah.
He's 19 years old. He got injured. Let's give him a chance. Don't write him off right away. What the fuck are we doing here? Yeah. Right? We're rebuilding. We need to give these guys a chance. And his first game, like anybody's first game of the season, might not be great. I saw so much media about it. Like so much in the media about how bad he played and should we be worried? We shouldn't be worried. Like,
No.
Was he my favorite
No.
pick? No, I would have rather us pick Gabe Perreault, but that doesn't fucking matter. Sam Honzek could still be a very good player. There's no
absolutely.
reason that we should write him off.
He has good hockey IQ. He has good hands. He's a big guy. When he's 6'4", once he fills out, a bit, once he becomes 20, 22, 23, where he gets a little bit more mass on him, I think he's going to be really difficult to play against in the corners, in front of the net. Because, some of the videos that you see of him, even before he was drafted, it's pretty impressive watching him, power his way through defenders and with the puck on his stick and still drive the net. I think he has a lot of IQ. He has a lot of ability. And when you're playing in a tournament like that with line mates that you've never played with before, you're bound to go through a couple of guys where you just simply don't have chemistry.
Absolutely.
That happens with players in the NHL level. It's just the nature of the beast, right? Give him a chance.
Yeah.
Let's see what he looks like in the actual training camp where he gets to play 2, 3, 4 games, potentially with touchdown dance with the same line mates and see what they can muster up. Get a couple of these young guys together and let's see what we truly have. Now's the time. Now is the time. This year is going to be really fucking painful for a lot of Flames fans that expect us to be in the playoffs every year. I got bad news for you. This is not the year for that. This is a year to see what we have in these young players like Schwint, even, whether it be Peltier. There's so many players that we really want to try to see what they're made of so we can start making decisions for this organization moving forward.
I totally agree. And I don't expect Sam Honzek to play in the NHL this year. I kind of think nearing the end of the year, I could see him getting 3 games, something like that, at the very end of the year, if he impresses in the AHL. But like I said, he's only played a couple of AHL games. After the Vancouver Giants season ended last year, he got basically called up and played, I think, 1 regular season game and 1 or 2 playoff games. He was... And he didn't stand out, but those were his first professional games. He's going to play the entire season as long as he can stay healthy in the AHL this year. And that is fantastic. I want him to get top 6 minutes. I think he will get top 6 minutes in the AHL. And I'm expecting I'm not expecting a superstar out of Sam Honzek, but I'm expecting him to take a giant step this year and prove to the fan base and prove to Conroy and the management that he's actually worthy of keeping around for a little while. He's still got 3 years left on his deal, so he will. But I think he's going to play not this upcoming year, but the year after. He'll probably play quite a few NHL games, probably maybe half the season ish.
Yeah,
that's my expectation. And you gotta, with a lot of these kids, you gotta really limit your expectations. You know what I mean? When it comes to instant success, a lot of them don't have instant success. Most of them don't have instant success. There's very, very few players who come out and are NHL ready. It's very, very few and far between. So just patience, right? Anyways, that's
absolutely. And out of all the forwards that are potentially going to be on the Wranglers roster this year, Sam's the second youngest player.
That's nuts, right?
Yeah. Give him a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let him learn his role and get into that. He's never played professional hockey before.
Yeah.
So let's give him a chance. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see him play for the Wranglers this year.
I'm excited to see him progress and develop, because that's what this whole rebuild thing is about, right?
Exactly. That's why they picked him as their first pick last year. You know, let's see if they were right.
All right.
Obviously, I really hope they are, because I don't know if you remember, I was on the live show with the guys from the Hockey Podcast Network,
Yep.
and he's actually the player that I suggested because I liked his size and I liked how he drove the net. And we don't. It's been a long time since we've had an actual power forward. Not saying he's going to be that guy, but at least he has potential to be that guy.
He's got the frame for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why
Yeah.
not? All right. I want to move on to Sam Honzek's Vancouver Giants teammate, Jaden Lipinski, who actually really impressed me in all of the games.
Mhm.
Now, this is another kid I don't expect to be a superstar, but I thought he played really, really well. He really reminded me of Michael Backlund. Now, of course, he's playing against young players,
Mhm.
and that's pretty high praise coming from me. I'm a guy that loves Backlund and what he does, but playing against his peers, he looked like Michael Backlund when it came to defensive responsibility, positioning, and stick work, like specifically defensive stick work. And he also got a goal, and it looked like Backlund, because Backlund does this thing where he comes in late because he's been playing defense. He comes into the zone late, and then he ends up kind of being alone. Now Backlund misses the net on a lot of those. Lipinski kind of just got a rebound and poked it in.
Yeah.
And that, along with all the defensive play up the middle, really impressed me. Again, I don't
Absolutely.
expect a superstar out of him, but
I've got a ton of time and respect for two-way forwards. I've been a Michael Backlund fan for many years
me
because
too.
he's responsible on the ice.
He plays the game the right way, right? And that's a cliche that you hear all the time, but Backlund's one of those guys who goes about his business the proper way.
Yeah.
Now we talked about Sam Honzek for a long time, but we don't have to talk about a lot of these guys for a long time. I wanted to mention a few more forwards. William Stromgren, who I think played around half of the Wrangler season last year. He looked really strong as well. I think out of all the forwards, Stromgren probably has the biggest chance to actually make the NHL squad at some point this year. He's probably one of the first call-ups. He just seemed really smart when it came to passing and puck protection. I think he's kind of like Honzek, except further along in his development, which is good, right? We need those guys, and he's a right winger, which is what we really need. I also wanted to shout out Luke Misa, and Andrew Basha, who both had quite a few nice individual plays when it came to creativity in the offensive zone specifically. Very impressive stuff. Just high skill young players. The other Flames first rounder, Matvei Greedon, I don't really know how to say it. I've heard it both ways. I'm sure we will all learn it one day. But Matvei Greedon really showed, I think he was kind of slow in the first game as well, but in the next couple games, he really sped up and showed why he was the points leader in the USHL last year. And if you look at some of the players who have been points leaders in the USHL in the past, you've got like Clayton Keller, Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes. Like, I'm not saying this guy is going to be those guys, but it's good company to be in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I thought that he really showed a lot of offensive creativity, and he seems like he has a pretty good attitude as well, which is really good.
Yeah, he seems like he's going to be a happy guy, and I think he's going to be good, and he'll be good in the locker room for sure. But
Yeah,
he
he's really rough with the English still. He's kind of like Sharangovich when it comes to
yeah.
the English, but it brings the comedy, which is nice.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, he's what, Russian, right? Yeah, I think he's Russian. So I mean,
Yeah,
it'll take time.
yeah.
I
Um,
don't care. I don't care what his English is like, as long as he can produce on the ice.
yeah. I wanted to talk about Sam Morton, who I think is like 25 or 26 years old. He was really, really, really good all tournament, but he's
Mhm.
playing, as by far the oldest guy on the the Flames roster, I believe, and he was also by far the oldest guy on the ice. Maybe not by far, but he was the oldest guy on the ice in both of the games that he played. But
Mhm.
he played so well that they decided to not play him in the third game and
Right.
tell him to just get ready for main camp. And that's a sneaky signing. I mean, again, you're not
Mhm.
looking for superstardom out of him. It would be nice, but you kind of see him as a bottom six type of guy. It was
Yeah.
really strong up the middle. He was probably the best forward when it came to just all around of the tournament.
Mhm.
So that was nice. Lucas
Yeah.
Siona was another guy that stood out. Uh, Jacob Battaglia had a couple of nice rushes. You know, there was Parker Bell really impressed me as well, but
Yeah. I heard. I've heard good things about him. We'll we'll see. I think he's 21. No, 20. I think. Yeah, he's
Parker
20.
Bell,
Yeah. So I
yeah,
mean, again, he's going to be a project.
he's big,
But
he's
I think,
huge.
yeah, I think it's worth watching him develop.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some of the defensemen. I think by far the Flames' best, and like whole other league, the Flames' best player was Hunter Brustevich,
Right.
who, you know, as most of you probably know, was prospect, the main prospect that we got back in the Elias Lindholm trade to Vancouver, and I think this guy is going to turn out to be a pretty good player. He's the main thing that he like the main problem that he came to us with was his commitment to defense, and
Mm.
I saw him being super committed to defense in this tournament.
Yeah.
He got all sorts of offensive opportunities, but he also came back on defense. He was the first guy back a lot. The couple times he gave the puck away, he was the first guy back and he broke plays up. He was him and Morton were the only two guys who were scratched for the third game because they were just that good in the first two.
Yeah. And that's
So
a good sign, right? That's a good sign. He's only 19 years old.
yeah, and him and Zane Perek were the two. I think Zane Perek was the first highest scoring defenseman in the OHL, and Hunter Brustevich was the second.
Yeah.
Um, and let's talk about Zane Perek a little bit. I saw all sorts of flashes of brilliance from this kid. He is so young, and you can
Yeah.
tell on the ice that he's that young.
Mhm.
Um, it seemed like he was very excited to be on offense all the time, and he wasn't like kind of the opposite of Brustevich, where he just wasn't super pumped on getting back on D all the time. I've heard all sorts of people being super excited and saying how good he was. I didn't see it. Like
Mhm.
there was a few flashes, but for the most part, he was pretty rough to watch. But
Yeah.
he's young, and there's no reason to write him off. He's going to be, I almost guarantee he's going to be a number one defenseman in this league, like in the NHL, one day.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there's no reason to worry. I just think that we got to slow down a little bit on the Zane Parekh hype when it comes to making the team this year.
Mhm.
No, I don't want him to go back to the OHL. Unfortunately, that's the only option. So I think he will, but I kind of think that this tournament and hopefully training camp, main training camp, will show him that he needs to go back to the AHL and work on his commitment to defense because he's got the brain for it. So
No, he's super intelligent.
yeah,
Yeah, I think he's, obviously his expectations are high because because of his stat line and all that fun stuff, which is fine.
draft pedigree too.
Right, and his attitude is really good, and I think he's mature enough to handle not making the club at this time and using that as a bit of a stepping stone, right? So he knows he needs to develop. He knows he needs to get better. He's super young, and defensemen take a couple of years to develop. It's just the way it is. Not everybody is Makar, right? Not
Well,
everybody can step into the league in a playoff situation as a child and be the best fucking defender on the ice on both teams, right? Like it's not realistic. It's not realistic to think that he's going to be that guy.
I
Even
mean,
though I was the guy that said my hot take was he's going to make the team and stay. Clearly, I was wrong after the Young Stars. But I mean, let's see what he looks like in main camp. I mean, I'm not going to write him off for this year, but I don't think this is the year to bring him in and stifle his development.
yeah, I agree for the most part on that. Well, actually, for the entire thing, I totally agree on that. The other thing is like you mentioned Cale Makar, but Cale Makar didn't even come right in, right? Like he was drafted. I can't remember which year he was drafted. I'm trying to find it right now. But he also took a little while, right? Like he came in that playoff round against us and lit us up, but he played that whole year before that in college. And the year before that in college. So he was playing against men for 2 years before he came in. And that's like the best defenseman in the league, bar none. Right. So
I mean,
most
he was
defensemen take a while.
19. He was 19, I think, when he played against us in that.
Yeah, in the playoff series. So he played his 18-year-old year against college kids who are men and played his 19-year-old year against college players who are men, and then came in that playoff year against us.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, Zane Parekh has all sorts of upside. Like I said, he's going to be a number one power play quarterback. He's probably going to be a number one or number two defenseman overall. He's going to be one of those guys in 3, 4, 5 years. He's going to be one of the top earning players in the league, and he's going to deserve it, in my opinion. I just think we got to slow down on giving him all the praise for this tournament because, quite frankly, he was bad.
Yeah, he was young and it showed, right?
Yeah, exactly, right.
That's simply all it is, right? Like you said,
100%.
like Makar bypassed the AHL. It's very rare for defenders to bypass the AHL. So let the kid develop. He's going to turn into the guy that everybody wants and everybody thinks he's going to. It's just going to take, it'll take a year or two.
Couldn't agree more.
By the time we're having this conversation next year, he's going to be one of those guys that'll be pushing for a roster spot, whether he makes it or not. We'll see, right? It all depends on how he develops between now and then.
And he's going to be one of those guys who, if he doesn't make the NHL right away, he's going to be the top guy on the Wranglers, unequivocally. Right?
Yeah, he's gonna take Poirier's spot or whatever, right? And
Yeah,
hopefully that means Poirier can come up here, because I mean that'd be a hell of a pairing on defense. We get Poirier and and him playing on the Wranglers. That'd be great.
absolutely.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like? Or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning and growing, but as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. What's something you'd like to learn? Gardening, a new language, or maybe how to finally beat your best friend at bowling. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with your licensed therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Discover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. HELP.com/THPN.
All right, I wanted to kind of group some of these other defensemen together because it's been a long episode. Yoni Yermo and Artem Grushnikov, I found really played very well defensively. Now, both of them are older players um, who have played. I don't even know if they're older players. They're just guys who have played a bunch of AHL games. Well, one of them's played AHL, one of them's played professional overseas, and that's you could tell they were dominant defensively, and that's what you want from them, right? Like when we acquired Grushnikov in the Tanev trade, he came over with Tanev like qualities, and he showed that. And Yermo actually really impressed me because I've never really watched him play or seen much of him. And again, I thought he was just really strong defensively. And I thought Henry Muse and Etienne Morin really moved the puck well. Both of them really moved the puck well. Muse made a couple of really nice offensive moves. I found Morin really sped up as the tournament went along and looked very comfortable, which is good because there was a lot of worry with him over this summer. But I think that that guy's most likely going to be a pretty good defenseman for us in the future.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
All right. Let's just talk about the goalies real quick. I thought that Murphy and Ignatiu actually both looked very good. I got to get used to saying this right. It's not Ignatiu, it's Ignatiev, I believe. It's just the last letter is a W, not a V, but I believe it sounds like a V. Anyways, Ignatiev played very, very well, I thought. Specifically in that second period of the last game, I thought that he got lit up, but it was mostly because the Flames were just hemmed in their own zone the whole time and really gave him no backup. And so his numbers suffered, but I think that when it came to the rest of the tournament, I thought both him and Murphy looked really good. And I just want to say, for the first time in my lifetime, I'm really excited for the future of the Flames goaltending. I think like we've obviously got Wolf, we got Cooley, we've got Vladar. All three of them have a little bit to a lot of potential to become solid starters. Then we've got, Radomski, Murphy, and Ignatiev, who all look strong. We've got I got to look up this guy's name because I was so we've got Yegorov, who also looks really strong in the KHL, and Arseny Sergeyev, I believe. I think he's kind of an afterthought now. And then there's that
He
other guy.
likely is, right?
What's that?
Yeah, he likely is. And there's what, Yegor?
Yeah, Yegorov. He,
Yeah,
I mean, first of all, what a name.
right? Yeah.
um, and I think he's got some pretty good potential as well. I mean,
Mhm.
full transparency, I haven't seen like a lot of his games, or a lot of his plays, even a lot of his saves. But from what I hear, he's a pretty decent prospect. And same with that other guy that we signed or that we drafted this year, who I believe was playing pro in Russia as a 17-year-old and actually played very well on a shitty team.
Right, right.
I'm spacing on his name right now. But yeah,
Like,
go ahead.
is that Kirill?
Yeah, Karel Zarubin. That's right.
Yeah, Zarubin. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that for the first time, like I said, in my many years of being a Flames fan, we've got top to bottom like good goalie depth. The first, like, we don't have that starter yet, but we have so many guys who have starter potential,
Right.
and a bunch of different ages, right? So we can cycle through them until we find that guy. I bet one of them is going to become that guy,
Mhm.
and maybe more than one of them becomes that guy, and one of them becomes a asset we can move for something else. I think that they've done a really good job. Like, the Flames management has done a great job at actually building goalie depth for the first time ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we've had a lot of players that have been, exciting to see, or I've been excited about as far as development that have just kind of turned into nothing. A lot of them, actually.
Yeah, Yoni Ortio, Mason McDonald, could go on forever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I do
I
think some of
mean,
them were
I
probably
was I
managed
was super
badly.
excited about Riddick, for Christ's sake. Like, I really thought he was going to be I thought he would still be on the team now, and he would have been the backup of Markstrom for quite a while, and develop into our starter. And man, was I ever wrong about him.
I mean, he played very, very well last year. He had
True.
very good numbers, but LA is a team that really defends very well, so that's to be
Mhm.
expected. They made all of their goalies look very, very good last year. Phoenix Copley, I guess he got sent down, and then they had David Riddick and Cam Talbot. Cam Talbot was one of the best statistical goalies in the league last year because of LA. So, and how about that? Talbot and Riddick, the exact
Right?
tandem that we had. And remember that one year we were going into the playoffs, and Talbot got the start, and I was just like, that whole playoff run, I was like, why aren't we playing Riddick? Like, Riddick
Yeah.
deserved, like, don't get me wrong, Talbot played well
Yeah.
in that, but leading up to it, Riddick outplayed Talbot and deserved the start, in my opinion.
I think that started a bit of a bad taste in David's mouth, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't blame
Because
him.
I think he also felt that he deserved the win, or the start. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, she's great, isn't she?
yeah,
Hey, hey, you doing all right?
yeah. Yeah, she's doing good. Um, do you have much else you want to talk about, Chris, or should we cut it short and talk about the about training camp, which starts on Friday next week?
I think training camp is super exciting. It's basically means officially that hockey is back, which I know how I feel about that. I'm also excited about the potential of some of these young guys we've been talking about to have cracked the roster. We'll
I'm
see.
excited as well.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been, like, the last few years, or last few seasons. Sure, I've been excited that hockey's back, but I'm in a really good headspace right now when it comes to the Flames. I'm excited to see what the young guys can do. I'm excited, because we got the potential for this new arena to be opening up in 3 years. There's just so much to look forward to right now, in my opinion. Yeah.
I agree, and I think there's something to be said too for not having the expectations to win 40 plus games. Like, would it be nice to randomly win a cup? Absolutely, it would. But realistically, the expectations on the Flames currently are to get a top 10 pick, right? To be one of the worst teams in the league, but to have their young players take big steps and all of the players on the Wranglers to take huge steps and have a few surprises along the way of guys that get called up and really step up. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I want to hear in the comment section what all of you guys who are listening have to say about rookie camp and how that went, who the guys who stood out the most to you were, what you thought about guys like Perek and Bristevich and Stromgren and Morton and Hanzek. Love to hear what you guys have to say about that. So let us know in the comments section below. Make sure you follow us at ArmChair GM_pod on X, and check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, all that type of stuff. And go Flames, go.
Go Flames, go.
Cheers.
Cheers.